Jesus had been working hard all day, teaching crowds of people about God, healing the sick, listening to their troubles and showing them God's love, and he was very tired. So as evening came, he said to some of his close followers, his disciples, "Come on, let's get in the boat and head across to the other side of the lake." It was a huge lake, so big that the locals called it a sea. They called it the Sea of Galilee. Now, some of Jesus' disciples were fishermen who'd grown up living and working on these waters, and so they said to Jesus, "Okay, Jesus, hop in the boat and we'll take you across to the other side." So Jesus, shattered from his hard day's work, got into the boat, found a cushion for his head, and lay down at the end of the boat, probably under some covers. And as they left the crowds behind, he fell into one of those deep, dreamless sleeps that you sometimes fall into when you're really, really tired. The fishermen sailed the boat out into the middle of the lake on a gentle breeze, while the other disciples who weren't fishermen sat and quietly chatted over all the incredible things they'd seen and heard that day. But when they reached the middle of the lake, something happened. The gentle breeze that had helped them along so far suddenly changed direction, and no longer was it a gentle breeze, but a howling gale. It rushed at the boat, threatening to capsize it. The fishermen leapt forward to pull down the sail before the boat was blown over. Meanwhile, the wind started to whip up the waves and catch the spray and lash it into the faces of the startled disciples. And the waves, which had been gentle ripples, were suddenly enormous mountains of water, heading towards the boat one after another. One moment they were heading almost straight up to the sky, and then over the top and hurtling down the other side, almost as if the tiny boat wanted to bury itself in the bottom of the ocean. They tried to turn the boat towards the waves as they came, but it was almost impossible, as wave after wave came at them from different directions. And as each wave hit, it was almost as if it wanted to smash the tiny boat to pieces to reduce it to matchwood. Either that or sink it, as the furious waves cascaded gallons of water into the tiny boat. The disciples who weren't fishermen were bailing the water out as quickly as they could, while the disciples who were fishermen looked at each other in horror. They'd never seen anything like this. The boat was going to be destroyed. They wouldn't stand a chance in these raging seas. What about their friends and family back home? What about poor Jesus at the back? What about poor Jesus? Jesus did miracles. Almost as one man, they rushed to the end of the boat and shook Jesus awake. "Jesus, Jesus, don't you care that we're all going to die?" Jesus quickly took in the situation, and then, with a slightly puzzled look on his face, he got up and made his way to the centre of the boat as it was tossed and turned in the raging sea, and grabbing hold of the mast, he stood up, and to the wind he shouted, "Peace!" and at the waters, "Be still!" As the words left his mouth, the wind, which had been a howling gale, died to nothing at all, and the sea, which had been like a boiling, churning cauldron, became completely calm. And then Jesus turned and looked at his disciples and said, "Why were you so afraid? Have you still not learned to trust me?" The disciples, who'd been terrified of drowning, found themselves even more frightened now, but it was a different kind of fear, because they found themselves asking, "Who is this man, that even the wind and waves obey his every word?"